Stay tuned for urban legends to ghostly tales of the paranormal, because now it's time for
Message on the Wall.
This is Message on the Wall and the Village That Disappeared. There have been numerous towns and villages that have disappeared, but the most famous may be that of an Inuit settlement on the shores of Lake Agikuni in the Kavallik region of Canada. It is highly improbable that the villagers reached the reported number of 2,000 and would be more like 30, which is still a good number of people to just disappear, for that is what they did. It was in November 1930 that fur trapper Joe LaBelle made a return visit to the fishing village, for it was known for its hospitality to those passing through, and Joe was looking for shelter for the night from the freezing Arctic conditions. But as soon as he entered the village, he knew something wasn't right. What was usually a busy place was silent, all too silent. His snowshoes crunched on the frozen ice as he went from hut to hut, only to find no living thing. He noted that nothing seemed to have been disturbed. There was no sign of any struggle, and in one hut a pan of burnt stew hung over the dying embers of a fire. He found plenty of food and fish in the storage hut. The guns had not been taken, and there were no footprints in the snow to show a hasty retreat. Finding not one man, woman or child, Joe LaBelle struck out for the nearest telegraph office. It was a trek of many miles, and when he arrived at the office, suffering from frostbite, the exhausted trapper told his story. A message was sent to the nearest barracks of the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, who set out to investigate. Travelling across the tundra by horse, it was several hours later that they arrived at the settlement, having stopped off at a shelter where Armand Laurent and his 2 sons were holding out against the harsh winter. On being told the Mounties were on their way to investigate the Inuit village, the Laurents related that they had seen something strange, an object shaped like a large glowing cylinder or bullet that they saw heading in the direction of the village. As Joe LaBelle reported, the mounted police found no signs of any villagers. Nothing appeared to be out of place, and so a search was organised. It was on the edge of the village that there was even more strange things to add to the mystery, for covered by a snowdrift they found the remains of the sled dogs, the unfortunate animals seeming to have starved to death. And it was not only the people who had lived in the village that had disappeared, but also those who had died there, as the Mounties discovered at the burial grounds the open and empty graves, even though the ground was hard with ice, ruling out any animal. Another unusual thing the Mounties claimed to have seen for themselves was an array of blue pulsating lights that looked nothing like the more familiar aurora borealis, which they watched till it faded away. The easiest conclusion for the police was that the villagers had migrated, even though there was plenty of food, and no explanation for why they would leave behind their dogs, their guns and clothing. To desecrate their own burial ground would also be out of character. Today, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police deny that such a thing ever happened. And so, dear listener, it is up to you to decide whether it is true or just an urban legend. You have been listening to Message on the Wall, brought to you in association with Paranormal Parodies. You can find Paranormal Parodies at paranormal-parodies.com.